Welcome to my mid-season maintenance video. Well, this has been a great season for riding it here in Minnesota. I mean, if you look back, Lonnie and I took our first ditch banging excursion all the way in November. It's now the middle of January. We rode all through December. We got a ton of snow. You've been watching those riding videos, but you know what comes with that is maintenance. And I got a fair amount of maintenance to do on various things. We're going to start first with this sled. So let me tell you the story of how this all started. I was moving it around with the two-wheel dolly, and I knocked the spring off. The spring right here, but I didn't notice it. Started to drive forward, and the spring hooked the track and went around by the back wheel. It was no fun. I mean, I noticed it. I shut it off right away, but I had to drop the back of the skid out to get enough tension off the track to, get the spring back where it goes. Nothing was hurt. Nothing was broke. I didn't poke a hole in the track. Everything's fine. But I noticed a lot of stuff wrong with the skid. So let's tear into that first. All right, so you can see it's not quite hooked in right. I just put a little ratchet strap on to hold it up so I could move it. But the first thing is the slides are gone. They are worn all the way up to the wear marker. And the next thing, I will have to drop the skid out to show you. But there's some bad bearings in there. And then lastly, I want to do a shock upgrade. So I'll drop this thing out, drag the sled off the lift, and show you what's up with that. All right, I got the skid sitting up on a board so I can show you the condition. That might be bad. That one's no good. That one's a little loose. That one's big time loose. Loose. Little loose. That's shot. That's shot. That's pretty shot. That's pretty shot. So, literally, every wheel on the skid needs new bearings. No biggie. I got those. I haven't even tried to knock the shafts out yet, but I could tell you that they're not stuck because they didn't tear up the tunnel at all. So that should be good. Obviously, I'm replacing the shocks, so that'll happen. This is an older skid. There's no grease zerks to grease, so I'm going to be like 2 bolts away from having it totally apart, so I'm going to tear it all the way apart and grease it. Oh yeah, and the slides. Bet you want to take a look at the slides. How about that? You know how worn out the slides are. So, yeah, it's time. Time for some fresh slides on here, too. So there you go. There you go. It looks like a full skid rebuild. Well, I came up with one of those rare instances where an older Polaris skid uses a bearing that's not a 6205. So these wheels, which were the ones that went here to keep the track from, rubbing on the spring like it did, uses these bearings, which are a 99502H. Kind of unusual. I'll find them on Amazon and put a link in the description. All right, I'm blowing the skid apart, and here's a really common question I get. I thought I'd give you a little demo. So take a look here. Obviously, A, that shaft's a little bent, but B, and the main point is, the shaft's just turning with this bolt. How do you get that out? Well, what I'm going to do is put the bolt back in on this side, and then work on the other side, and then just go back and forth until it comes out. So I'll set you up on a tripod and hopefully give you a little demo there. Okay, so I grabbed one of these dog point bolts. This is what I'm going to use to thread back into here because it's just easier to line it up. And you can see with that bent shaft, she's a little wobbly. The hole's not lined up. So I'm just going to turn her until I hopefully get it lined up better. It doesn't look like that's happening, so let's just push it. There we go. So the dog point's good because it's just, you know, it's a little harder to cross thread them. All right, so I didn't go crazy tight on that side, just a little. Now, there we go. Now for the big question, does the other side come out? Well, there you go. So there's your demo on one of my most frequently asked questions. Hopefully it always goes that easy for you. All right, well, I got the tripod set up. I thought we'd check the condition of this rear shock. It's not good. It does have some rebound, but it has 0 compression left, and I know it had some compression dampening when it was new. So this thing's garbage. All right, skid's coming apart great. This shaft that's obviously bolted to the rails sounds pretty dry, so I'm going to blast that out and grease it, and then I'm going to put that back together. Then I'm going to take apart the rear scissors here and grease all that and put that back together. And the only reason I'm doing them in this order, instead of just totally taking it down to nothing, is to just kind of keep the rails aligned a little bit. Now, it's no big deal if you do take it totally down to nothing. Just put everything together loose before you start tightening stuff. But this is just kind of what I've decided on today. All right. Here's that shaft from this I don't know what you call it, crossbar on the front torque arm. And she's pretty dry. There's a hint of grease in the middle. So they're all going to get the same treatment. So just start off with some brake cleaner. Grab whatever you can find for a rag and get that old grease off of there. No biggie. Oh, geez, I just sprayed my beer. Damn it. Good thing it was almost empty. So, obviously, your amount of time you spend polishing your shaft will vary with your level of experience. But get your shaft all clean. Next, we do a little bore snake action like you're cleaning a gun. All right, you get some good solvent in there. Lube up this little knotted rag. And we're going to drag her through maybe 2 or 3 times. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of grease to pull out, though. So it might just be once. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get much. I'm actually, it's clean in there. It's not rusty. I'm going to call that good. So then, take your shaft you just polished and give it some lube. And once again, this is just such an old skid on this 81 TXL. There are no grease zerks on this thing. So there's that. Looks like I can, there's a lot of clearance, so I'm going to really try to goop on the lube pretty heavy on this thing. You know, if it's all scraping off as you put it in, there's not much clearance, well, you know, that's what it is. But yeah, this is just slipping right in. All right, that's that. Went in super easy. Life is good. I'm not going to drink this brake cleaner beer right now, but I am going to go through and repeat that on every shaft on the whole skid. Fresh beer, no brake cleaner. I got to be a little more careful. I don't want to go wasting beer. Luckily, that other one was basically done. So I want to make one point as I'm putting this in. A lot of times on these bolts, you'll see some blue on there. That was a nylon patch. When I see that, well, basically every bolt in the skid, I'm going to do blue Loctite on them, just as I put it together, just because I don't want my bolts falling out on the trail. I don't think red's really necessary for this, but at least do the blue. All right, here's one of those things that people have wanted to see. And so I'm going to try to show it to you. I don't know if this is going to be great video or not, but this is how I change these springs. So I got this puller, and I'll tell you right now, I had to modify the puller. I had to make this I just pounded a socket through it to make it wider to fit around all the different shock eyes I'm working with. And I just run a bolt through it. No big deal. And then I've got these hook devices that you just catch on a coil. Let's see. Well, that's where it's going to go. Now the only thing is, this is kind of fumbly. Kind of sucks because until you get some tension on it, it all just wants to fall apart on you. Yeah, I'll hold her there, Brad.
You got that side.
Brad's here now.
You want to run in the other one first so you got some adjustment?
Just like this. Just like that.
Notice I moved my hands out of the way?
Yeah. Good idea. So I got like the craziest, longest socket I can find, and it's still not always long enough. But, yeah, this is under a lot of pressure. So now I'm going to grab a hammer, maybe a screwdriver, and kind of knock this cap loose. There we go. And it should just come out. I may have to go just a little bit tighter to get it out. Unfortunately, by hand. There we go. All right, so guess we'll get a little preload on her. I don't think the socket's gonna work.
So it shouldn't take much.
Oh. I'm sure the socket's working.
Just drop it. No.
Yeah, it might. Pretty risky to be hitting on it like that with the spring under tension. Not that it's going to really go anywhere, but...
Right.
Usually I just give those caps a couple taps and they pop into place, so a little bit unusual, but take the tension back off and
you got a lot more preload on there than...
I'd usually do that, actually.
Well, yeah, but compared to what came off.
Yeah. I got it, Brett.
I don't want my hands in there.
No. No, you have to drive me to the hospital if this goes wrong. All right. I got that and it's home.
I suppose once the cap's sitting in the right spot, banging the spring in ain't a big deal.
That's what I'm hoping. That's how it's worked before. Here goes. Bang! So there we go. Front skid shock ready to go. Yeah, that was probably a little long on the video, but I know you guys wanted to see it, so I'll leave it in there. Oh yeah, and the question everybody's got. Oh yeah, it's garbage. That was a good call. Okay, I'm putting the shock in, and I'm going to say it again. Both Kimpex and SPI/SP1. I paid $100 for the shock. Can't you put a little plastic sleeve in it? Good grief. Why do I gotta reuse the one from my old shock? This is ridiculous. What's up with you guys? All right, I'll get her tapped in. All right, first real problem with this skid. This bolt is completely seized into this adjuster. Now, it's not the end of the world. Gonna get out the grinder and grind the heads off the rivets and just knock them out with an air hammer. And I'm gonna go find a donor skid, do the same thing, and then I'll just bolt the new one on. It'll be fine. I'll be back soon. I'll show you. All right, here's the donor rail. I'm just gonna grind the rivets off. All right, I ground off the heads, so here goes. That's all it takes. I'll just bolt it on with 1/4-20s onto the other skid. All right, so once you've harvested your new parts and blasted apart your old parts, it's pretty simple. I just bolt them on with a couple 1/4-20s.
Is that the right way?
Yeah, there isn't a wrong way. Wasn't bolted before.
That's true.
All right, and then got our new bolt, which is going to get a bunch of anti-seize slathered on it, of course, so we don't have that problem again. And I'm going to anti-seize the other bolt too. All right, I'm sure you're all wondering, how does Nutter actually get the slides off? Very easily is how Nutter gets the slides off. There we go. Could it be easier than that? Well, there you go. Complete skid rebuild. Worked out great that Brad showed up. Certainly a second set of hands to hold stuff was super helpful, especially when we discovered that adjuster seized up, and it was way quicker for Brad just to hold it than to try to figure out how to clamp it or get it in the vise.
Same with the spring compressor.
Yeah, the spring compressor sure was great. So it all went good, and I'm going to put it back in. I think there's got to be 12 videos on how to put the skid back in out there by now, so we're not going to show you that. Just going to put it back in, get the sled ready to take it for a rip. Well, my original intention was to make this video a bunch of short clips of quick midwinter maintenance items, but I guess as you can see, the skid rebuild completely took over. I know it's not the first skid rebuild I did on the channel, but hopefully you picked out something new on this, something you hadn't seen before, maybe a trick or tip or something. I don't know, but I'll be back with midwinter maintenance part 2 at some point. So for now, I want to sign off. I want to thank the patrons. Thank you for your support of the channel. And I want to thank everybody else that's supported, either through a PayPal donation or sending us some cool parts to the P.O. Box or whatever. Really appreciate you guys. Really appreciate everybody that's leaving these great comments. You guys are awesome. And we'll see you on the trails.